Great to have you with us. Now, in our first story, a specialized team from the police headquarters is today beginning investigations to find the killers of the police officer gunned down by suspected armed robbers in the northern region. Corporal Agatha Nana Nabin was shot at a checkpoint in the Sagnarigo municipality. She was among 3 officers stationed at a checkpoint close to a fuel filling station last Tuesday. Eyewitnesses say the robbers, who were all armed and dressed in military camouflage, wearing face masks and desert boots, escaped with 2 weapons. Well, Acting Inspector General of Police James Opombuenu is in Tamale today and has been assuring the family of the deceased the police will track down the perpetrators. Already, a 10,000 cedi bounty has been placed on anyone who will give information about the killers. Martina Bugri has been speaking with the husband of the deceased.
It's almost 24 hours after the incident, and I still don't believe my wife is dead. I still don't believe she's dead. The regional command sent for me. Then I went to the office there, and then they gave me the briefing. That's what happened. But they had to send me to my priest. They prayed for me, and I'm sure that consoled me and inspired me to him to stand up to now. It has not been easy, especially with the children I have with her. There are 3 young girls, and this is not easy to take care of. It's not easy for me. So briefly, I'll say that this is what happened. When she met her untimely death. This is not actually what we planned for ourselves, and we didn't know that. Should I prematurely end the babies or the children behind, I should take care of it. But I know with God, I can make it. With the support of God, I can make it.
Now, the acting IGP has also been speaking with the family. He says the police will do everything to get the killers to book.
We will leave no stone unturned to get at those who committed this cowardly act. I have been to the crime scene. Yesterday, I dispatched a powerful team composed of all that it takes to handle situations like this and to actually protect the integrity of the work they are doing. I'm not going to say on air the details or to tell you the details of what the composition of that group is, but I can assure you that it is a competent team that has been sent here. But I think I can mention that that team also includes more protective officers, and definitely I am very confident that we will get them. Whatever lead we get, we will follow. And let me use this medium to appeal to the people of Tamale, the people of the Northern region, Northeast or wherever, or the people of Ghana, that they should help us with any information at all that they think is relevant, anything that is relevant, anything that they have heard or they have seen in connection with this incident. They should apprise us of that, and I can assure you that we will not disclose their identity. We have I instituted a reward of 10,000 Ghana cedis for anybody who gives us information, credible information leading to the arrest of these cowards.
Some friends and family of the deceased.
She has 3 children, 3 kids. Their education is important. We don't know what policy that the police has in place for these children. On the part of burial, we are still waiting for home people to come so that we'll fix the date. If they don't come, we cannot fix the date, and we believe that when we get the date, we'll pass it on to the Police High Command. Thank you very much.
Okay. If you want to describe her to anybody, what will you say she is?
She's free-minded, she's free-spirited, and she's a good person. She has always been a good person, and she has been my backbone, even when I lost my mother.
So when you say she's your backbone, what do you mean?
My mother adopted her. She came to stay with my mother when I was in secondary school. She has always been my elder sister I never had. And after we lost my mom, she's the reason I came to Tamale, because she was here and I knew she could protect me and she could give me advice. So I came to Tamale because she was here. And I decided to stay here. And she had always been my advisor. Whenever I went through challenges, she was there for me. The first born is called Christabel, her second is called Josephine, and the last is Jessica. They are lovely girls.
Now, away from that story, residents of Discove are calling for peace between Lower and Upper Discove after a violent clash a week ago between the two communities almost ended the life of a paramount chief. Last week, Chief of Lower Discove Nana Kwesi Agyeman IX and 4 of his subjects were allegedly kidnapped in the dead of the night by some heavily built men. The actions of these thugs left many injured, properties destroyed, and others displaced. Well, there was a news conference in the Western region today, and Natalia Kwanzaa has joined us with some details of what's transpired. Ina, who held this news conference?
So, Daniel, the conference was held by a group calling itself Concerned Youth of Ahanta, both in Ahanta and those in the diaspora. Basically, their call is on the president that he stepped in just like he did with the Dabon issue. They want him to also step in and resolve the Discove dispute. The group said they are aware of some other issues which have happened, and this, according to the group, is an old age chieftaincy dispute. So they expect that the president step in as early as possible and make sure that the tension there calms down, because they say that there is still tension at Discove.
Ina, has there been any other incidents after this initial attack on Nana Kwesi Agyeman?
Just when the people of Lower Discove had promised to retaliate, we did file that story that they retaliated. So after that, there hasn't been any other incidents. But last week, the Western Region House of Peace visited Discove to see things for themselves, but the number of properties which have been destroyed.
Now, beyond this news conference that was held by the youth of Ahanta, how are the people feeling?
Basically, Daniel, there is calm there, but they still believe that if the president or state institutions do not step in and resolve the issue at once, probably there could be another faction who can just stand up and do what they think would also not go well for both sides. They are calling for peace and unity among the Ahantas, especially those in Upper and Lower Discove.
Thank you very much, Natalia Kwanzaa, for that update. Now, Henry Kwesi Bedu visited the community and filed this report.
Over the past week, the predominantly fishing community has been in the news, not for the right reasons, but for events that will forever leave scars on the minds of residents, the Ahantas. Life in this community is yet to return to normal, days after the disturbances. Canoes have been destroyed, homes razed, and vehicles vandalized. Around those close to the Lower Discove Palace are remnants of the violent clash. Some shops were also looted.
In the heat of the disturbances, my shop was ransacked. The thugs stole my goods, and I have since reported to the police.
There is tension in the community with heavy police presence in both the Lower and Upper Discoves. Most men have fled the town. Cecilia Kofi and Mamin Ketiaba are residents.
Eba na nkofo no waka ho do Tuesday no. Eba na nkofo waka ho do.
We are scared. They
chased
us. I fled to a nearby village, Buzia. I sell porridge, and my table was destroyed. My children and I have sought refuge in a friend's house.
Brother be of a bushapin de jasam or wadi no no, ni dem in a cacada, Sunday name. I'm a family now, because sister, maybe could be a paying a chiba and more brun in a chiba.
My sons have fled the town. The elder one, who had to write his exam, is yet to come back. I'm scared. My daughter is always
what about Babu and Babu now? I will probably to them and to work. Muslim to me down a malo carbonate. I did tell them way.
As many look on worried, some repair and fix their damaged property. For those who were allegedly kidnapped, it was a horrific experience, they say. Nana Kroma is one of the sub-chiefs kidnapped. He's the Mrantiahini of Lower Discove. He recounts how the well-built machete-wielding men picked them up in the middle of the night.
In fact, the bed was shaky. When the bed at 10 minutes.
I heard the warning shot. I was frightened. I overheard someone shout and ask where I was. They broke into the palace.
Mr. Boxer Sala. Or Mr. Matip was no, on a being with Mumu. Because I have named Mitch, or Mada, what you paper. And in fact, what the Mumu one coin and I be a afternoon to tell him, Monsieur Mudani. But I pool, or Mamma's own watching, I don't know. But she could do on the man pete. Now, Cousin be oh, I'm because I slap, maybe I son and all.
I begged them to allow me wear something, but they refused. They hit and kicked me. They slapped me several times. They locked us in a room and beat us. We later heard the police and they finally rescued us.
What do you want to me? I call you. Why then? Yes, I'm alarmed. Kobo 2. Yeah, a piano, Westing up. I won't go if you're in a way now. A piano. 2 over bed, police cars, 3 and 4. I took to the Nana Clam Concord to grab another police car. Now, as a Macaya home, Macaya home, I make a open to
Residents of both the upper and lower Discoves say peace is a priority as the proposed sword cutting for the construction of a fishing harbour at Turum is in limbo. Chiami Hene Stephen Kwabena and Nana Kofi Basao are both elders in the Discove area.
Mfuma asonjene then or your upper Discove or your lower Discove.
We need peace here. We are one people. Most of the youth have fled, and the town is fast turning into a ghost town.
Mfumana pesino or your disco fin. You were intermarried.
I'm from Lower Discove, but my wife is from the upper side. Many people have done the same, so we need peace.
Before Nana the Chibesia Otterdon, not Damascus saying Bimba.
As the yearly Kundum Festival celebration draws closer, residents are optimistic that the two paramount chiefs, Nana Kwesi Agyeman the 9th and Obrempong Himadechi the 14th, resolve wrangling on who has the right to install a sub-chief at the Turum area for peaceful coexistence. This is Henry Bedu's report for Joy News.
Meanwhile, the Western Regional House of Chiefs is asking for a presidential commission to investigate the long-standing litigation between the upper and lower Discove traditional areas. Chief of Lower Discove, Nana Kwesi Agyeman, was last month abducted and assaulted by unknown men and is still receiving treatment at the Efem Government Hospital. Making the demand as the Jubilee House, President of the Western Regional House of Chiefs, Ojaho Yaojebi II, said that the committee's recommendation will permanently resolve the dispute.
The Western Region House of Chiefs has already unreservedly condemned the unwanted violence and defilement of the person of Nana Kwesi Agyeman the 9th, Omanhene of Lower Discove, and a brutish attack on some residents of Discove. Nonetheless, your remarkable visit to the bedside of Nana Kwesi Agyeman at the Fie Kwanta Hospital on 24 July 2019 revealed a strong, compassionate strain of your personality for which we are grateful. You reach our hearts. It's a huge step towards the healing of our brother. In fact, the trauma inherent in his defilement is shared by persons in our institution. We are heartened by your unflinching declaration to bring the perpetrators to face the full rigors of the law. We are confident that this will happen sooner than later. Again, Your Excellency, we respectfully call on your government to resource the Western Region Coordinating Council and the Western Region House of Chiefs to set up an investigative committee to look into the festering feud between the two discourses and make recommendation for its resolution.
Now, government is considering a legislation to ban export of all natural resources in their raw state. President Akufo-Addo, who announced this, said the move is part of government's plan to add value to raw materials before export. He was responding to concerns by the Western Region House of Chiefs, who are worried that the processing of cocoa beans is putting local firms out of business and wants government to intervene.
The oil is where all the commercial activities and the further developments in terms of the petrochemical industries should take place around the oil. It makes a lot of sense, and we're going to do it. Just as we're going to bring the fertilizer plant to Jomoro. I said so when I was there, and I want to repeat it again. It will happen, definitely happen, and soon, definitely, yeah. So, the challenge over cocoa processing for our domestic cocoa process, I think is a very important point you have made, and it's a point we have to pass on to the cocoa board and the Ministry of Agriculture, how to make sure that our own processors, other than the Cargills and the others, also have access to quality beans. I'm happy. I was very happy when I went to Takoradi to see that WAMCO is back on its feet and is working well, and is in fact beginning to make money again for its shareholders, of which the government is a 40% minority shareholder there. But it's very good to see it up and running, and that now there is a regular and secure supply of beans for the cocoa. We have to go down that way. We have to go down the process, the path of processing our raw materials. We want to pass, I believe the law has now been passed, which is going to prohibit within the next 5 years the export of raw bauxite from Ghana.
Our Energy Minister John Peter Amewu has mocked the minority's claim that it has the names of government officials that fronted the botched power concession agreement. Minority spokesperson on Mines and Energy, Adam Mutawakilu, has said that the suspension of the agreements between government and Power Distribution Services (PDS) goes beyond the alleged breaches of PDS's obligation to provide payment securities. Now, Mr. Mutawakilu then promised that the minority will soon publish names of officials in government who are culpable in the failed attempt to enable private sector participation in the operations of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG. Speaking to Raymond Akwa on Upfront yesterday, Mr. Amewu dismissed that claims by the minority, as a joke.
Well, they should come out and name the people, because we are all working in the interest of Ghanaians. And so if they have some evidence, it's too late for them to be hiding it out. They should bring it out. I will see this as one of the serious jokes I've ever heard, some 30, 35 years ago. No, the NDC as usual, they are all jokers. So what I think the NDC should rather be doing at this time is to rather compliment the efforts of government and even congratulate the agency ECG and government efforts. That government do not sleep even during the execution process, because as I stated on the due diligence process, it's a continuous process. And so if government continue to do that due diligence and have come out with these findings, then of course it means this is a responsible government. I think if we're there, maybe they will be sleeping and think that the project has been executed, contract has been signed, so let's watch the execution. We didn't do that. We tried to continue to subject further documents, further undertakings to some due diligence consideration.
Now, it's common knowledge that in some democracies, governments have a love-hate relationship with the media. Public officials would always want good press from the media, and journalists depend on access to those in power for information, although their criticism of government is met with anger and mistrust. Some governments often resort to boycotting media houses as a way of punishing them. One person who knows this all too well is journalist and former Information Minister Fritz Bafo. As we continue our campaign for media freedom, he tells Joy News editor Araba Kumsin boycotting media houses is not the way to go.
We had a dichotomous relationship. The government wanted the ministry to defend the actions of maybe the president or the party and all that. So we had to resolve that kind of issue. And then again, there were a lot of people who thought that they had an in into determining the work of the minister. And so we had people working in the presidency who may come out with comments that could be at odds with what maybe I would say, you know, the ministries and things like that. And so it was one of the biggest challenges. And then we also had a love-hate relationship with some of the independent radio stations and independent press in terms of the newspapers. And I think the
love-hate relationships. Can you be more specific? Was it the case that they were being irresponsible in their reportage, or just the?
The thing is that, you see, when you're dealing with partisan politics, you can easily take umbrage at what could come out of any of the media agencies. And for example, there was a problem with multimedia, and there was a decision which I didn't agree with, that multimedia should be would boycott multimedia, which as a journalist I thought was wrong. I don't think that government should ever boycott a particular radio station, however negative they are in terms of their relationship with the government. And so I got the backing of President Mills, and we were able to resolve it amicably.
It's interesting that you raised this issue about the boycott of multimedia. How did that affect government, looking back?
Well, naturally, you know, my political party is a progressive party, and progressives do not do the natural things, all right? We do not believe in class. We believe in a certain equality of opportunity and all that. People will debate and say, oh, they are champagne socialists and things like that. But the thing is that it makes us sometimes very wary of the established order. And so we've never really been comfortable in dealing with the press. And we haven't created the enabling environment for us to deal with them. You know, and that is why the conservatives in our society seem to have more of a shrift when it comes to the press. All right. I mean, I look at the press today and I see things that are happening that did not happen in our time and are more horrendous than our days.
Things such as what?
Well, I mean, you've got a problem with the killing of journalists. You've got journalists being arrested. You've got the gagging of opinions and all that. Yes, I mean, to a certain extent, they've always happened, but this is even worse. And even with the little contretemps we used to have, the press would jump on us. Right now, the press are a little bit guarded when dealing with the fact that the conservatives are in power. And they made so much noise when the Conservatives were out of power that right now they are hidebound, because then they would go against themselves.
Now, 2 weeks ago, the multimedia group started a campaign to get the bad roads at Lekma fixed. After a series of stories were aired, government gave the projects to a new contractor. My Journal editor Malik Abbas Dabo visited the area this morning and reports work is progressing steadily.
This is the road that has caused untold hardship on many hundreds of thousands of people living in the Teshi enclave. The government announced that a contract had been awarded to GS Construction as far back as 20th June to construct this road. My information is that 1 kilometer out of the 7.5 kilometer road have been done. I have two residents here who I have conversations with, Jennifer Obeng and Nana Kwame. They live on both sides of the road. Each of them will be telling us what they feel about the rate of work going on and what their expectations are. Jennifer, let me start with you. You live here. How do you feel that construction has started on the road?
Oh, for now I feel great, because while they have started it, we think they will finish it for us.
What's your assessment of the rate of work being done so far?
Well, we are expecting them to finish fast, because the dust here is too much for us.
About that, how much pain is that causing you?
Oh, for the dust, it's causing much, because walking on the road, even in the house, the dust is too much and it's causing so harm to some of us.
Let me talk to Nana Kwame. Nana Kwame, you live around here. What do you see happening on this road?
Well, in terms of dust, it becomes a pain hanging white clothes or white shirts outside. White things have to be always hung inside because of the dust. And in terms of our cars too, plying this route with a car, you would always have to be visiting the shop. It's a bit of a drag.
Now it's being constructed. What do you think?
I'm happy it's being constructed, but I expected, since the whole noise was about the Lekma hospital and they are facing much problem there with their machines, I expected work to be started there. Though I'm happy it was started just by my residents. I would have been much glad if it had been started on the Lekma hospital side of the road.
What's your assessment of the rate of work?
So far it's gradual, but it's not being as I expected it to be. It's not as fast as I expected it to be, but it's gradual. We'll take it that way.
There was, should I call it a hole? I mean, that was filled by very porous materials. I mean, contractors doing something, they come and pour it in until they've filled up. And then I'm wondering whether the same contractor is doing the work, or they are using a different contractor.
It's a different contractor.
So whether the engineers from roads and highways are involved in this work, because if they know that portion of the road is not good, it becomes waterlogged anytime it rains. So if you use porous materials in there, and then you are selling it with these ones, and then to add it up with that means that the base is not good enough. So you should probably have builders in there to support it before you add whatever you are building there. And to me, I'm not excited until I see a finished work, because we've seen it, people come and then they do something, and then they go. Then they vanish, they vanish into thin air. So to me, until we in residences here see that the work is completed, it's asphalted, is what do you call it, marked with all the necessary things, street lights, we are not too excited. We want to see excitement when the work is done.
Still live on Joy News today with me, Daniel Daze. Coming up in business, government has signed $1.5 million agribusiness deal with IFC. Daryl Kwao has the details.